Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first outdoor edition of Talking Dogs with Ante. As probably you have noticed, we have moved to the seaside last week, and Valentina had all these crazy ideas of me making the interview tonight at the beach in some hula hula shirts with cocktails and everything. But somehow I have managed to say no to most of the things. But anyhow, she has prepared my studio on the balcony, and I'm sorry for Andrew, who I know is really sorry that he will not join me in Rogoznica this year and enjoy this amazing view. But well, the times are like this. Let's hope everything will get back to normality for the next year. We are going to continue with Talking Dogs with Ante from Rogoznica for the next few weeks, and we are not going to leave you alone in these hard times. Still, some nice things will happen on Wednesday evenings, and I'm extremely happy to welcome my guest tonight, coming from Sweden, which I don't know if it's hot, warm, cold at this moment, but he will tell us something about this. Good evening, Paul. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Ante. Last week we had 30 degrees and sun for 1 week. Now it's down to 18 and rain every day.
We had a horrible we had a horrible storm 2 nights ago, and the sea is not as warm as it was. But okay, now it's again like 28, 29 degrees, and as you can see in my background, it's a really nice and sunny day. And yes, I'm sorry for everybody who cannot be with us this year, but let's hope the situation is going to improve soon. Tell me, Paul, talking about the situation and everything what is happening, how are the things now in Sweden? Did you start with any shows or still nothing? What is happening?
No official shows. They had some type open shows with just 50 dogs, because we have still 50 persons maximum. But there's no shows at least to the end of September, and we're not sure they will start. But the COVID-19 is going down. There's less deaths now and less people actually getting the disease. So it's been very, very good, all the people keeping distance.
Yeah, this is because Swedish people are polite, and they can, when you tell them to do something, they do it. That would never work in Balkans, as you know. But I'm happy to hear that it's okay. We also cannot have still almost any big indoor gatherings, but for the moment, outdoor gatherings are okay. And let's hope it's going to stay like that at least 2 more weeks. Okay, before we start with some serious questions, first, let me read a few of the first comments that we got. Andrew Bray saying, please don't torture us with that gorgeous Rogoznica backdrop. Yulis Travelamo saying, good evening, ready to have a great time. Diego Garcia saying, El Gran. Paul Stanton talking about knowledge. Brina Tomer, looking forward to listening to this great judge and human being. And Desi Murphy saying, we all wanted to be there. And many other people are already putting comments. I will try, Paul, to follow all of them, and from time to time ask you the things that people are asking here. But before we start that, let me ask you one thing, and this is: do you miss judging it? Do you miss traveling, or you are fine to be at home?
Both. I don't miss the traveling. I miss the new cities and the judging and meeting my friends. But I'm quite happy with, because I have the garden and all my plants. So I've had more time. So I've painted the sheds and I painted all the deck around the house. So I've done some useful jobs.
Yeah, because I know you when you write your statuses on Facebook, you often complain that you have no time for anything and you are tired and busy and poor you this and that. But now I suppose you had time to do everything perfect, like most of us. Anyhow, yes, this is true. I don't think that anybody miss traveling so much, because traveling is always exhausting. But I think we miss to meet with people, and it is strange, actually, I must say, this new normality, because people come to my house, and then, you know, people that I have not seen 4 or 5 months, and I say no hugging, no kissing. I cannot get corona before the split shows. So yes, we are living in a crazy times, but let's hope everything will be better soon. Tell me, Paul, for the start of this interview, I want to know how did start your love for the purebred dogs, because I suppose many people know that you were not born in Sweden, you were born in the UK. You spent first years or first decades of your life there, and many will not know that your first dog actually was a Shetland sheepdog.
Not unless they have read Andrew Brace's, which I think was a brilliant interview with me in Dog World Annual a few years ago. And I just read that. I thought, wow, he got my whole life there. Yeah, my parents were not dog people. My father was a horseman. He was in the cavalry in the Second World War. And my mother, she was a cat person, but their love was flowers and gardening. So I was not allowed to have a dog until I was 14. So I had a pet rabbit that I trained to walk on a collar and lead up and down the road.
Okay. Interesting start for sure. So how did the Shetland sheepdog come to your life?
The local kennels, the boarding kennels, they had Shetland sheepdogs and Cocker Spaniels, Mr. and Mrs. Stevens. And I used to go down there just to help and pet the dogs and take their dogs for a walk. And one of my favorites was this dog called Tint. And he was born in 1959. And in 1964, they offered him to me, but my parents said, no dogs. But I cried and I kicked and made a fuss, and Mum gave in and then Dad gave in. And that was the start of it.
That was the start. Okay, tell me, before we start to talk about your dogs and everything, when you look now back to your doggy life, and you have been successful as a breeder, you have been successful as a judge and as a handler, which part do you still think it excites you the most? Breeding, showing dogs, or judging?
I think all three, but when I think back, I have to think that what made me famous, if you like to say the word famous, was the wins. Like the first in the breed was a Tibetan Terrier. So I think it's not more important, but it's a very important part. And it made it easier for me to carry on breeding.
Yeah. Tell me, we are going to talk a little bit about your past, about the breeds that you had at home, but you have been breeding dogs for a long time under the kennel name Tintavon. What does it mean? How did you come with that name?
Well, Tint was my first Shetland sheepdog, and tinted means like the colors of autumn, and he was this beautiful red shaded sable. So he had these colors. And as my hometown is Melksham, which is on the River Avon, it was quite natural. I had a brainwave. Wow, Tint Avon, not Tintavon, Tint Avon.
Ah, okay. Now I know. I have actually never asked you this question, so I was curious, and I know you were trying today to send me the interview from Andrew's interview that he made with you, but it didn't pass through. So I was thinking, okay, I'm going to make my questions and ask everything what I want to know without any extra information. I read some of your CVs that you were sending when you went to judge abroad, and then it says that you got your first Lhasa Apso in 1969 because you got crazy about their temperament. What did it really attract you to the breed?
Well, I was offered a job in the States, and my parents said no. I was 16 years old. It was too far, and I was too young, and it was a passing phase. It would go over. So I was offered a job at Anne Matthews' Kennel Hardacre, who was really famous for her Basset hounds. But she also had just started in the Lhasas and Tibetan Terriers, which I'd never heard of in 1966. So that's where I met them. I was just fascinated with the Lhasas. And one slept on my bed for 2 years. She was the ugliest little creature you could ever see. Big undershot, knockless coat, bowed legs, thin bone, but the sweetest temperament. I just fell in love with her. And the other dogs, the Shelties were a little bit more nervous and highly strung, and they were cool dogs. And I think this is my first acquaintance with dogs of primitive type, and they were much more primitive 40 years ago, 50 years ago.
Yeah, and I mean, you got so much winning, and you shared most of your life with the Lasses. How do you feel now to live without them? Do you still miss to have a Lass at home?
I miss the dogs. I don't miss the grooming. After 40
Yeah,
years of grooming, I think that was enough.
yeah, I
And,
can imagine that.
and I think before, our dogs have always gone for long walks out in the woods with long coats, and we would come and work hard. You cannot do this nowadays. But when I do judge, I'm very, very fussy. They must have a good body and muscles, any long-haired dog.
Yeah, I know about that, and we are going to talk also about that a little bit. But tell me then, it was 1969 that you got the first Lhasa, but then immediately the year after you got also the first Tibetan Terrier, and then that was the first Tibetan Terrier actually in the world who won All Breeds Best in Show at the International All Breeds Show. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
But in those days, all the breeds were together, benched together, and there were not so many entries. And so I, being nosy and interested, I talked to everybody around the Tibetan breeds. And Graham knew him. He was a very nice man who had this beautiful grey bitch, and a lady, Penny Spencer, who had this a very little red champion dog. And they said, Paul, will you please have a Tibetan Terrier? You present them so nice. I mean, at that time, they were hardly bathed for a show, not the Lasses either. So I said, yes, if you ever mate Laka to Kanga, then I will have a puppy. Well, there was 5 puppies, 2 females, which were booked. The best male was going to the US, and there was 2 males. So I went up by train to London, and the male, I liked him the best, so I brought him back with me, and he turned out to be the biggest winner.
Yeah, and then of course you were showing and breeding dogs in the UK, and in 1977 you moved to Sweden, but you continued obviously there to breed and to show, and you continued there your judges education. But the interesting part which I read is that at that time, and I don't know if that's still like that, you were the only person who bred champions or showed UK champions in all Tibetan breeds. Is that still like that?
Not now, because now Tibetan Mastiffs have CCs in the UK.
Okay.
But before, I was the only one. It was 5 Lhasa champions, 2 Tibetan Spaniel champions, and 2 Tibetan Terrier champions I'd owned or bred in 7 years. That I'm rather proud of. Being a nobody, I wasn't a famous person in dogs. I was a young, interested person, and people helped me. They were fantastic at that time.
Yeah, and when you think now today about yourself after all these years, do you feel more like to be Swedish or to be British?
I'm English, not British.
Okay.
Well,
I never know these differences.
Well, the Scottish people never say they're British. They say they're Scottish, and the Welsh. So I say.
Well, I listen to me. I perfectly know that to enter Brace, I must say that he's Welsh. This I know. But anyhow, you feel more Swedish or you feel more English?
Well, after 43 years, I now have a Swedish passport. Okay. It took so long, and it was what really did it, because if I wanted to apply for a Swedish passport, they wanted my UK passport for at least 6 months, which was impossible with all the traveling. Yeah. But when Brexit came around, I thought, now I have to do something.
Okay.
So I flew over to London, had an interview, and the Swedish Kennel Club wrote a very nice letter. So I managed to get 2 passports, 2 UK passports. So I came home. One was sent to the immigration in Sweden, and I had one I could travel on.
Now you have 3 passports and you cannot travel. Yeah, that's the destiny. Okay, before we continue to talk a little bit more into details about these breeds, which have, let's say, been the most important part of your life, there has been at some point also some poodles there have been some whippets, but that has not been for a long time.
The poodles were, well, in England we had 2 Irish Water Spaniels, but they were great dogs, really nice, but they were hard work and they didn't go very well with the Tibetan dogs. They knocked the fences down. As soon as we put them in the car, they shit every time and the smell was terrible. And it was like, I don't think this is for us.
Yeah.
But the poodles, we took care of a very nice little bitch who was international champion. And then we were given a fantastic brown male from Norway, Here Comes Trouble, Punk. And he was international Nordic champion, top miniature poodle 85. But they were hard work. It's a different mentality. They were always active. The Tibetan dogs were happy to be with us, but these wanted to do things.
Yeah.
They were obedient. We could have them off the lead and they came when we caught them.
Yeah, that's true. And what about whippets?
Well, it was the same. We were good friends with Magnus Hogstedt, and he and Mikael Wikström. I had to look at Torbjörn because my brain's going bad.
No worries.
They would come out and we would go for walks with all the dogs. And the whippets hated our dogs. They thought they were disgusting creatures, except for one. And one day Magnus rang and said his 2 females had a big fight and one had ripped out the throat of the other nearly. Could we take care of her for 3 days before she went home? I think we had her for 13 years and she had a litter born with us. So we kept a puppy and then that's what started with the whippets.
Yeah. Because I know you had whippets for some time, but I don't know how.
25 years we had the whippets.
Okay, so that was not so short.
No.
Okay, we are going to go back to all these breeds a little bit, but before that, because now in my new studio that Valentina prepared for me, it's all difficult to follow my questions and everything. And let me just look quickly at the questions and the things that people are writing, because we have like about 150 people watching and already 40 comments, so it means that I have missed quite a lot already. Let's see now what people are. Joan Falco saying hi Ante and look forward to this evening's interview. Sabine Rauchut saying good evening. Nancy Downing saying hello from Nova Scotia, Canada.
Hi, Nancy.
Olga Baranova saying hello from rainy Moscow. Let me see. Bruno Nodali saying hello, dears. Good evening from Ukraine, from Katerina Pereguda. Chetan from India saying hello to both of us. Let me see. Valentina making jokes with the people about my hula hula shirt and the cocktails. Annika Ultveit Moe saying hello both to us, to both of us. Alenka Pokorn, Tina Goldberg, Jorge Nalem saying hello, dear friends. Nice to see and hear both of you. Okay, Nancy Downing is asking you, Paul, over the course of your dog career, what have you enjoyed the most? Handling, breeding, judging, educating, traveling, or meeting people?
Meeting people comes with being around the dogs. So that's like just a plus. It's not my favorite thing, but I think the showing was started because I started showing before I started breeding. And in England, I had like 1 Lhasa litter a year, where the big kennels had 20. So it was difficult. But I enjoyed it that time, maybe the first 20, 30 years, that showing the handling. I think now I prefer the judging and the training. I like to help people as much as possible.
And of course, meeting people, because imagine if you were not happy to meet people, you will not meet me 25 years ago. And I must actually say to this story to people, because many people ask me often, because obviously everybody knows we are good friends. And, even on Facebook, when we talk one to another, we always say Twinny. And I mean, the story goes back to, I think it will be almost 25 years ago when you came for the first time to judge in Split.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that Paul arrived to the airport, and I went to pick him up, and his luggage didn't arrive. And obviously there was no time to buy the new clothes and everything. So I said to him, okay, if you want, I will give you my shirt and my tie. It's not a problem. And well, yes, everything actually. And actually, he judged the day after completely in my clothes, which is not possible anymore because, of course, I have stayed fit and pretty. But Paul, I don't know what he has done with his body, so my size is not his size anymore. I don't know what happened, but actually, yes, this has been the start of our friendship. And I don't know if you can, if any one of you can imagine, but yes, actually, 25 years ago, Paul Stanton judged in my shirt and in my trousers, and today it fitted perfectly. Yes, today I could have for two Paul Stantons my clothes, but okay, that's another story. Anyhow, Nina Glader is saying, hi everyone, I'm so happy to hear this interview, and I did know a Sheltie was the first breed for you. Francesco Cocchetti saying one of the greatest personalities of our dog world. Christina Chavrak saying hi boys. Tony Broom saying great honor. Joan is having a question, but I'm going to ask that later. Karina Johansson saying my teacher in my education becoming a judge. Patricia Ratsep saying love you, Paul Stanton. Why people love you, Paul? I don't understand it.
No, I don't understand.
Yeah, that's something very difficult to understand. Margarita Macrina, one of the best judges I've met. Hope to see you soon again. Divora Serra saying hi, Paul and Ante, and many other people. Maria Luisa Doppelreiter, great to see Paul. Greetings from sunny Austria. And so many. I don't know. People are getting crazy writing messages to you and saying hello to you, and I'm really happy to see that, but we will go back to some of the comments and questions later on. I want to go now a little bit, let's say, to the more present situation with you and the dogs, but then we will go back to the past again. How did this story about importing the first Thai Bankevs come to your head? What did it happen? How did it happen?
Well, how does anything come into my head? It sort of flies in. We visited Joran and I the first time Thailand in 1990 in May, and we found the Thai Kennel Club up in the Thai Kennel Association at that time in Chiang Mai, a little place in the market. But they gave us the address of the club in Bangkok, so we just turned up one day, and they thought that was amazing, and they invited us to a show, which we went by boat to the Bansai Palace. And there were no Bankales there, but there were lots of Thai Ridgebacks. And they invited me in the ring. And this is where I sort of got the feeling for Thailand. And actually, people might not know, I was very, very Christian and very believing up to the age of 14. And then I suddenly found out I was gay. And it started like, why would God punish me? I'm a good boy. I'm a good Christian. So I decided there is no God. This is how a crazy teenager thinks, right?
Okay.
And I had no religion until 1991. But 1990, we visited an incredible temple in Chiang Mai. And I talked about it for a year. So next year we went back. And I got the same feelings. I said, this must mean I should become a Buddhist. So I haven't been a monk. But I don't get shave my hair off. Not like you, but I tried to be a good Buddhist, but I tried before to be a good human. That's the most important.
This is why you like me, because when I shave my head, I look perfectly like a little Buddha.
Yes, the Chinese Buddha, not the Thai Buddha. He's rather slim.
Okay, you didn't need to say that, but okay. Okay. Anyhow, let's go back.
In 1999, I was judging at a show, and John Lowe, who had a laughter from us, said, "Look, there's two Thai spits," which I've never heard of, or they're not recognized. Then 2003, I was judging at an all-breed show, and they asked me to do 33 at like an open show without CCs. So that was like the first time I got my hands on them. And then I think they got certificates to Thailand, I think 2005, 2006, that the Japanese Kennel Club granted. And then 2008, I judged them at the first ever non-Asian to judge their main club show. And then I fell in love with the dogs. They're just so crazy, wild, special. I mean,
and then you came back.
About Santos launch later.
Yeah, and then you came back home and you somehow managed again to push Torbjörn and Joran to let you bring some of the Bankevs from Thailand. And Santos was the first one, but then you also bred some litters, but you don't breed them anymore. What happened?
Well, Santos came to Sweden the first day we opened to countries like Thailand, as long as they had the blood test, was 1st of January 2012. But he came that day, and he was shown in Helsinki in the beginning of November 2011. And then, I mean, people probably know that I think we had him for 3 months, and he went to you for 6 months. And he became European champion, world champion, I think champion in 13 countries. And that gave us, he was a great ambassador, and you did so much showing other people this breed. And then we brought in, we bought 5 dogs. We brought 3 back. Well, 3 were coming. 1 went undershot, so we brought 2 females back. But the older one has PRA, and 2 of her daughters have PRA. And the other 2, male and female, we brought in, had clear eyes, but 2 of their daughters had juvenile cataract at 5 months old, but the males were clear. So that was like everything we have, we cannot breed anything, which I think was the most heartbreaking thing I've had in dogs. It really depressed me and broke my heart because of the love and the passion, and I was hoping I could do something for the breed in the future.
Yeah, I mean, how difficult actually is to invest so much time and passion and money, and then just say one day, okay, there are these health problems, and I'm not going to breed dogs with health problems. Is there some kind of a balance there that a person can say, okay, I'm going to try to do something, or it's just better to stop?
Well, I mean, there's no chance if the mother had PRA. And we know that, and all the dogs were so line bred to one dog, Santos' father. So it's probably coming from him, and every pedigree has him on both sides 2 or 3, 4 times. So I think this was the problem. It was just too inbred.
Are the people in Thailand aware of this problem in the breed?
They are aware of the problems we had, because I wrote straight away on the Thai Bankel Europe of the problems. And I wrote in the Thai clubs in Thailand. So everybody knows, but in Thailand, they say they've never heard us, seen anything like this.
Yeah.
So what can you do?
Yeah. But tell me, many breeders, sometimes, not many, I will not say many, but some breeders sometimes, decide to hide this thing. And I mean, from the moment that this happened, you have gone public about it, and you said we have discovered this problem, and we want to say to the people that the problem exists. Is that really, I mean, is that a good way to finish some of the problems in the breeds and to go on, but to be clear that there are problems in the breed and you need to take care of them? Is it good to be open about health issues in pedigree dogs?
I think it's the only way. I mean, there's just no other way you can go. Because if you try to keep quiet and breed more, it would come up for other people. And it's just not fair on the dogs or the breed. But the 2 females, the one from Thailand and her daughter, we have them still at home, and they're completely blind. They have been for 4 years now. But they're so incredible. They can compensate for it.
Yeah. And tell me, you have definitely decided that you will not breed any more Bankevs?
Not with these lines, not at all.
Okay, that's an interesting answer. Is there something that I don't know?
Well, we're talking because Santos is nearly 14 and Kwanjai is 10, and the 2 kids will be 8 in December. So it's like a time thing. And we're talking about what do we have if we have a dog, Joran wants a Shiba, and I'm thinking, pretty faces, no. Torbjörn wants a Whippet again. I think, okay, it's an easy dog, doesn't demand very much. Warm bed, food, and that's it. But my love now, it's for the Bankales. I just adore them. But they're difficult, but they give so much. I've never had dogs love me so much as they do. It's just amazing.
Yeah, because you spoil them and you let them do whatever they want. Of course, they love you.
No, absolutely
Yes.
no. You have to understand them.
Can I please have Torbjörn to confirm what I'm saying is true?
Is it true, Torbjörn? Did I spoil them? He says yes.
Of course, we know each other quite well.
But I must admit, Santos and the bitch Kwanja, they adore me. I mean, they really adore me, and I adore them. I've never had such a close relationship with a dog before, which is quite amazing when you've had dogs for so many years.
Well, let's hope that somewhere in the near future, you will manage to fulfill your dream to get another Benkev to breed, and Torbjörn will manage to get a Whippet, and Joran will manage to get a Shiba, and then everybody will be happy. That would be nice. Okay, now I want to go back a little bit to the Lhasas. When you think about the Lhasas, when you started with them, and it has been, let's say, 40 years ago, and when you think about the development of the breed during these 40 years, do you think that the breed now is going in a good direction? Do you think Lhasas today are better than the Lhasas when you started, or what do you think is the thing?
They're definitely better than the ones that we started with in England or the UK. I think because the people that brought the dogs in, they were not dog people. They weren't real show people. They weren't breeders. Many were on the different expeditions to Tibet and Nepal and fell in love with the dogs or given them. So it was like, and there was a very mixture of dogs. My first Lhasa had 3 teeth up and 3 teeth down. That's what I started with.
Okay.
She had a great front and other things and super temperament. But I mean, I think we worked hard, and I think maybe the best dogs were probably in the 80s. They had the elegance, they still had the body, the size wasn't too enormous. I think then it's gone a bit, there's so many different types now, and size, people have forgotten about the size. Where we say 25.5 is the ideal for a male. And many champions are 32, 33, 34, which is way too big. Yeah. I mean, if I went in the ring with a male ideal size, people would laugh. They say, "What's this miniature toy dog?"
Yeah. Well, and when we are talking about this, when you look at the Lhasa Apso, what do you think is, let's say, kind of the main characteristic, a main thing that you need to see on a Lhasa that defines actually the correct type of the breed? And then my second question, in the same way, what do you think? Okay, except the size that you have mentioned, is the biggest problem of the breed today?
I think the most important is to think of the standard. It talks many times about the dog being sturdy, and many are not sturdy anymore. Fabulous coats, there's just not enough bone and body underneath. I mean, this I always look at, is it just an elegant profile, or is it a sturdy little dog? So I think that's one of the most important. And I appreciate beautiful grooming, but it's not the most important thing, what's underneath. And then I really want a good forechest. The legs do not have to be perfectly straight, because if they're perfectly straight, you often get a narrow body. So I don't mind just a bit, not crooked, but just a little bit of a bend in the legs. But I want the deep and long rib cage and normal angulations.
Yeah. And what you think, except of the size, is the biggest problem of the breed today?
I think it developed probably in the 90s, that the hind movement is too much flick up, like the Shih Tzu should have, showing all the back pad high in the air. Well, many Shih Tzus do not have it anymore, but the Lhasas have it. That's one a real no-no for me. But then sometimes it's because they move too fast. They're running the dogs, which I really hate. You know when you're getting old and you get old-fashioned. When I started, people said, you cannot groom this way, it's not correct. And you think, okay, I do what I think.
Yeah,
And this is what people do now.
And when you look the same thing about the Tibetan Terriers, what do you think that if you compare them when you started and when you compare them how they look now, is the breed going in the right direction, or there are some big problems today in the breed?
It's not definitely not the problems that the Lhasas have. The grooming is spectacular now, which it was not when I started. They weren't even bathed, some of the dogs. And I put the center parting in because we had a center parting in the Lhasas. I put it in my first Tibetan Terrier. And some of the judges would just rough it out. This is not natural. But I kept on, and now every dog is shown with the parting. So that's a little thing people don't know, but I'm a little bit proud of that I started a new craze.
Yeah. Yeah, and you think that Tibetans are now at the moment going in a good direction, Tibetan Terriers?
I think what they are losing now is is bone and getting rather narrow in body. This is a beautiful profile. Many are short in body, great side movement, but they're too narrow. They need a bit more forechest, and I like a bit more bone on a lot of them, and a bit more spring of ribs. They must not be a heavy dog, but they must not be so light that the wind blows them away.
Yeah, and tell me, when you think about the Bankevs, do you think that this is one breed that at some point is going to become popular in Europe, or you think they will never be a super popular breed? And then in the same time, how do you see the quality of the breed in Thailand today? Because I know you go often to Thailand and you watch dogs there. Is the breed in a good shape?
Yeah, they're really good. It's a big difference because 95% of the dogs are shown by handlers, and the dogs are kept with the handlers in aircon and perfectly groomed. They run them fast, but they're really excellent type. There are a couple of really great dogs that I think should be winning best in shows in Europe. And I think the problem in the breed lays too many are too straight behind. And it's a breed that should have just a normal angulation. And to me, it should be normal in front, normal in back. And I see a few that get too much hind angulation, but the majority have not enough hind angulation.
Yeah, and you think that this breed one day will become popular in Europe, or not?
No.
No.
It's rather strange. The dogs we have sold to other breeders that had other breeds, we've had problems with them. The dogs are intensely jealous, and they really love that person and don't like any sharing it with other dogs. So this is a bit of a problem we've had with some of the dogs. But those that have gone just as pets with small kids, just the one dog, never any problems. Perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a great pet dog. It's not so easy. I don't know how Santos was when you had him, but he was so indoctrinated to be a show dog with handlers.
Yeah. Well, he was very easy. He was very sweet dog, and they really get attached to people, and that's really amazing how much they love people. This is actually really amazing. Okay, we have talked now a little bit about the breeds. Now let me find out a little bit about your start as a judge. How did that story start?
When I think back, it was amazingly quick because my first Lhasa was born in 1969 and I awarded CCs 1974. That's just 5 years, which is insanely short time. But at that time, there weren't many judges and they were nearly all old people. So, I mean, they welcomed me into their hearts, and they did everything to help me. So I think that's why it went so quick, because there weren't many CCs on offer each year.
Yeah.
And then 1975 was Tibetan Terriers. It was the same thing. I think they were amazed to find a young person with so much interest for their dogs, which they adored. So they helped me. It was just incredible when I think back the help I got.
But you got most of your breeds you got once when you moved to Sweden.
Yeah, I just had the CCs with Lhasas and Tibetan Terriers. But then I was 24 years old giving CCs in England, which is very, very young.
Yeah.
When I moved to Sweden in 77, I got automatically the Lhasa Tibetan Terriers, and they gave me Tibetan Spaniels. And I started on the judging course. And my first breed I took exams in was Yorkshire Terriers in
Okay.
1981.
And then when did you become an all-rounder?
1996.
1996. Okay, so that was a long process then.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think it should be a long process. It's to learn all these breeds, and it's not just passing exams. You have to judge them and remember them and learn more all the time. I I don't think you can do it, minimum 10 years.
yeah. Okay, let me read a few comments that we have. Marie Calert saying Paul is one of the best teachers. Karina Johansson say he's such an easy person to love. Annika Ultveit Moe say he's very easy to love. Nina Viscari saying hope you will come to Finland to judge whippets someday. Nancy Downing probably talking about you, talking about the PRA in the Bankev, saying it's the only ethical way. Maria Luisa Doppelreiter, wait, let me see, saying so happy to hear Paul saying that many dogs are shown too fast. Yes, many people say that. Brina Tomer is having a question for you. She's saying, I've heard about the moon and the sun when evaluating Tibetan Terriers and perhaps other Tibetan breeds. Can you explain it, please?
No.
No, I don't know what it is.
I think what we talk about, the coach should not be so long to the ground like a Lhasa, so there should be daylight. So I can think this is probably one thing that somebody's decided to call it, and the moon probably comes with the neck, the top line in the tail set, because it should not be a flat tail, it should have some lift.
Okay. Anyhow, so let's go back and you have just mentioned something about this, and I mean I know you for a long time. Still today, after so many years that you are judging, and you have judged for so many years, almost every week, and I suppose you have judged almost all the breeds million of times in your life. Still today, before you go in the ring, the night before you read the standard, how important you think is the preparation before you enter the ring?
You just have to. There's no way you can skip it. I even read my own last standard because there's always, I think I know everything, and there's always something new. Oh, I don't remember that. So, I mean, it's so important. And I think the most important is the general impression of each breed. Because that says the most, the height, the length, all these things. And remember, and I think the most important is remembering what it should be for. Is it just a toy dog to be carried around? Could it be a working dog? I think of this a lot. Could this dog do the work it's meant to do?
Yeah. And do you think that the new generation of judges are doing the same things like you, going and reading standards night before they go in the ring? Or you think people are taking it now much more, let's say, flexible than what you did before?
I don't think it's just the new. I think a lot of the older judges are very flexible. And the way they go over a dog, you think they have no idea what breed they're judging. They're just judging a dog. I'm pretty sure the Swedish judges, anyway, are very, 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 very serious about reading the standards because we do a lot and they talk and we're mentors for many of the new judges. So I think we have a lot of feedback and a lot of work, and they will soon know you're doing this wrong.
Yeah. Tell me, before I continue with my questions, you have two questions in the chat. One is from Francesco Cocchetti, who is asking you if you would have to choose only one breed that you have bred, which would be the number one? Or let's say, yes, the breed out of all the breeds that you bred at home, what would be your favorite breed?
Can I say Bankel?
Yeah, you can say. I mean, I don't know.
I'm just absolutely sold over them. No, the Lhasas, I think. The Lhasas were always the first breed. Then the TTs came, and the Tibetan Spaniels came in England, and I showed some.
Yeah, but you need to choose one. Which is your favorite one out of all that you had?
Lasses.
Lasses.
My heart says Bengals, but the brain says Lasses.
Okay.
Because I've had the longest, and I had to work so hard with what I started with. It took many generations for me to get 42 teeth on a Lhasa. And that was the first time I was in that, because I didn't want to lose the beautiful heads I had and the beautiful eyes. I thought the teeth I can work on. It took many, many years.
Yeah, it's not easy. But it was funny. I don't know if you have seen my interview with Espen Eng. It was I have asked him just more or less as a joke, and I asked him, like, if you would need to say which is your favorite breed, greyhounds or griffons, which one would you say? And I mean, I didn't have doubts about what would be his answer. And then he said griffons, and then people were literally in shock. They could not believe it. So I was quite sure that you will say Bankevs, but okay, yes, this is always the problem when the heart says one thing and the brain another. That's difficult to put. And then Andrew Brace is asking you, when Paul first began judging in Sweden, how did he adjust his brain from the British way when it came to writing critiques, as the Scandinavian expect much more critical reports?
I think the biggest shock
was it
when I came to Sweden, that we were talked. It was just in England or UK. It was breed type, and then in Sweden it was much more construction and movement. So I had to learn that as well, and I think it made me a better judge by moving. That you have to have great breed type, but they have to have good typical sound movement.
Yeah, but I think what Andrew is asking, yes, how difficult was to write critiques for each dog.
I
think you enjoyed.
I love writing critiques. I've tried a few times to stop it in Sweden, but I love writing critiques, and I usually write too much, so I'm usually the last to finish judging. And I think people get a lot of money. Yeah, you know that. But I think you just have to be honest and say what you see and what you think. I learned in the beginning, I was very much the English. I would like to see the dog a little thinner. Now I write dog is fat. I mean, you can save a lot of time by being more honest and explicit instead of being kind.
Yeah. Okay. Talking about judging again, tell me, when you think about judging, what is your favorite part about it, and what do you find to be the most difficult part of it?
The most difficult part is judging mediocre dogs. It's easy to judge the really bad ones and the really great ones, but it's really very boring, these mediocre dogs, which is the vast majority of dogs. What I love, I think, hoping I'm going to find a really great dog in each breed. This is what I think every judge is thinking this. You want to find something really great. It's a great show dog, great condition, and great breed type. I think this is what we're all looking for.
And when you talk, for example, about the present, and when you think about the past, do you think that before you were meeting these really top quality dogs more often, or you think it's easier to find top quality dogs today in different breeds?
How far back are we going? I think I know much more now, so I think I can appreciate a top dog. I think before, it wasn't always my brain that said this is a great dog. It was often my heart. I said, I love this dog. I think I judge quite a lot by my heart. That, of course, the brain's thinking this is good type, but I say this dog gives me something. It's not just a dog like a statue standing there. I remember once I towed off a lady showing lasses under me because her dog stood like a statue, and when it moved its head, she would bang it on the head with a brush. This is a true story in England. I mean, that's not an Appalachia for me. I like to see this temperament, the typical temperament. But It's difficult to say what you like. I think it's on the day how you feel and where you're judging. Different breeds look different in each part of the country, or different countries, completely different. But as long as I still enjoy, and I really enjoy my judging, I love judging dogs, I will keep on going. But when the brain and body says that's enough, then it will stop. So I hope somebody says it when it's enough. But at the moment, I just love judging.
Yeah. Well, when it's the time, we will lock you at home. Don't worry. Teresa Schubertova is saying, I love judges who read standards before judging, like Frank Kane. He do it every time on big events. No one is able to remember everything. I don't understand people making bad comments like, he doesn't even know the standard. He has read it before judging starts. Yeah, I agree. I agree about that. I mean, I think this way of thinking, that some exhibitors, when they see the judge reading the standards, many of them think really like this, like, oh, he doesn't know even the standard of the breed. They don't understand that probably you have read this standard 500,000 times and you know it by heart, but you just want to, it's what I know about you, that you only want to do a good job. This is so important for you. And after so many years, still, I know when I talk to you, you just feel that you need to do a good job. You're always under kind of pressure that you must do it right. Yeah. Francesco is saying, love it. We judge by heart, and this is our contribution to the dog world. Yeah, absolutely. I think that anything in dogs you cannot do if you don't have a passion for it. You mentioned a little bit about this, and I'm going to ask you now, how difficult for you is when you go to judge some breeds on another continent and you find the whole entry of breed completely different in type than what you are used to see normally. How difficult is for you to adjust to that?
I think the first time I did Goldens in Asia, it was difficult. But now I think I judge more American Asian type Goldens than I do the UK European type. But as long as they're not mixed, if I just get all American type Goldens, it's no problem. But if I get a mixture of great moving great moving American type with these horrible heads and little Asian eyes, against a beautiful typey UK type but cannot move, this is a problem, because it has to be a breed that moves. But luckily, I've not had that yet. I've just not had this mixture, because I would hate.
Yeah, that brings you into trouble. I can. Tina Taulos is saying better to read it before the judging than guessing in the ring. Yes, I think that's important. You mentioned.
A lot of people probably don't realize that it is allowed for the judge to have the breed standard with them in the ring. And as colors are changing in so many breeds, a strange color comes and you think, oh my God, is this color allowed? So it's better to make a mistake in disqualifying it or giving it best of breed to actually just look the standard.
Exactly.
I think this is sensible.
I think we need to understand that nobody is able to remember everything, and especially when you go to smaller shows and you get to judge so many different breeds on the day, it's impossible to remember sizes and colors and disqualifying. So it's always better to check. I agree with you. Tell me, you have mentioned that you like to write critiques, and I am one of the people who is always fighting about the critiques at the big shows like World Dog Shows and European Dog Shows. I think it's not, in a way, it's not fair to the people that they get pay so much money to travel to these big shows and they get just a piece of paper just with crossed excellent or very good without knowing. How important you think are the critiques in general for the dog world?
I think for the dog world, they're very, very important. I would say Stockholm World Show was the last show where critiques were written. And I had 104 soft-coated Wheaten Terriers one day, males. And I had no problems because you have excellent ring stewards. And then it just flows through. But we have a number is 80 is maximum dogs a day because of writing the critiques. But I mean, when you're paying something well over €100 to enter a dog, and judges that are half interested at the World Show just touch the dog, hardly look at it up and down, and you get a very good or excellent or world winner. Doesn't mean that much to me. I'm happy to get the world winner, but I would like to feel the dog was properly judged and know what the judge liked or didn't like.
Yeah, and I think also in a way, especially on these big shows, the only way how we can know that the judge has actually has the experience or knowledge about the breed is to read his critiques and to know. I mean, do you think that at one point the critiques from the big shows should become public, that everybody can read them?
In Sweden, the breed clubs always printed like a magazine at the end of the year, all the critiques, so you could see it. And it was interesting to see, you could read, okay, this judge is a tooth fanatic and it's missing one tooth. This judge never saw it. I mean, you can read lots into these critiques if you really, I think this is a good way. And to go forward, do we have a problem? Are all the judges saying too big? Are all the saying bad fronts? It's a very good way to learn knowledge about your own breed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the Helsinki shows, and it used to have it in Sweden, all the copies of the critiques were put up on walls. You could read them at the shows. Anybody could read them.
Yeah, I think it's fair also to the exhibitors and it's fair to the judges, because once you read the critique, I think really you can see if somebody has prepared himself for the appointment or not. And Ingram has written a comment saying, I have from time to time checked the standard while judging. When something unusual turns up, better to be sure. I think this is a good way of thinking, absolutely. You also mentioned this a little bit before, and I want to talk about this with you, because you and me, we have often discussed this. I know that many people today go for this greatly presented, super groomed dogs, flashy dogs, superstars, but you have in a way always been much more a fanatic of the body, of the condition, of the skin, of the muscle tone and everything. How important you think is the grooming and handling for the dogs?
Unfortunately, it's 75% important that the dog is perfectly groomed, perfectly trained, and perfectly handled. And 25% is the dog itself. It should be the other way around for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I love to see a well-groomed dog, but I would rather put up a dog not as well-groomed, which has got the body, got the muscles on any breed.
Yeah. Do you think that sometimes for judges is difficult because even if they have two dogs and they think one is better in type and one is better in let's say in condition and in everything, but he is poorly handled and groomed, they don't want to send him to the main ring because they think other judges are going to laugh at him because he has put down these super groomed dogs. Do you think this is a part of the problem?
I think maybe. But I think one of the big problems is when all the judges sit together watching the groups and they will say, oh my God, how could that be best of breed? And all these things. And one dog will win the group and they say, God, that's a shit dog. How can that win the group? And then the judge comes back and they say, oh, you did a brilliant job. This I find I really hate. It really upsets me, this two-faced. It's better, if I don't like it, or if I just don't say anything, unless the judge is stupid to ask me.
Yes, you are famous for being quite honest all the time. Another thing what I want to ask you, you are one of these judges who is not afraid when judge big shows or groups on a big shows to put up a rare breed. Do you think that judges many times overlook top quality dogs in rare breeds because they are not sure that they are good examples of the breed?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think what made it easier for me, because when I started showing the Lhasas and the Tibetan Terriers, there were no classes for them at the open shows. So they were with the rare breeds. So I started looking at these other rare breeds. So I think I've always had a soft spot for any rare breed. And do you remember when I was going to do the group at Stockholm?
Yes. You
said I was going to give it to a Krumfrelender.
Yeah.
You were so sure. But I didn't.
You didn't. I'm not sure even if there was a, but I remember how I don't remember actually where it was, but it was a big group of people, and you were saying, "Oh, I'm really happy to judge the group at the World Dog Show in Sweden," and I said, "Well, I mean, I already know who is going to win," and everybody was like looking at me strange because they were thinking, you told me about some dog that you, and then I said, yes, I think he's going to give it to the Crawford Lander because he's going to say he's the best one he has ever seen, and never this breed has won the group, and I'm going to bet. It didn't happen, but I must say, this is probably one of the things that exhibitors really respect about you, because you really put a lot of attention to the rare breeds, and when you have a possibility to put up a rare breed, you always do it. And I think it's amazing for people who usually have maybe super dogs in one breed, and they go to the shows every weekend, but they never get placed just because judges don't know anything about this breed.
I mean,
so I think that's very important.
You see this in all countries, and I think one of the problems we have when, say, all-rounders are coming from South America or from Asia, or even other parts of Europe, that have never seen a lot of these rare breeds, like the Scandinavian breeds. So they don't even look at these breeds, especially, I think, Group 6, they're always put up, always the Beagle will come out, and always the Dalmatian and the Rhodesian Ridgeback. It's a little bit boring. I thought, what about this? It's fabulous. But they just don't know. But I think this is the breed clubs. They should check more what the judges know about these other breeds. And if they have them, they have judged them. So it's not the judges' fault. I think it's the club's fault.
I find it quite strange that many times on the big European or the World Dog shows, for example, for the Group 6, you get people from South America, or who are great judges and wonderful people with a lot of knowledge. But unfortunately, most of these breeds they have never seen in their life, because they are just, they are rare even in Europe, and in other continents they don't even exist. So it's not even, in a way, it's not fair to them also. But
no, okay, it's not fair to the judges. It's not fair to the dogs or the handlers.
Okay, before I ask you these quick questions, which everybody hates, tell me one thing. Is there one breed that you have never owned but you would love to have at home?
Siberian Husky.
Siberian Husky. Okay, I was thinking you will say Thai Ridgeback, but okay.
I have a Thai Ridgeback in Sweden.
You had, okay. So okay. Siberian Husky, they are beautiful, but also not very easy, I think.
They must be easier than the Pintails.
Maybe. Okay, anyhow, let's do now a few of these quick questions, which everybody finds difficult, and then we are going to move to a few actual topics of today. Tell me, one show that you have judged that you will never forget.
It's impossible to say one show, because I was thinking, because I'm not allowed to say your show, which I've judged
no.
and I'm booked again, because that would definitely be fun. I think I was thinking of these questions. I've been thinking what to say. One show for perfection, for the judges, everything. That was the European Dog Show in Poland. To me, that was just amazing. I mean, it was like, wow. I mean, the hospitality, the food, everything was, and it wasn't a fantastic, most perfect hotel, but all the work had gone in to make everything great for the judges. And I think it was great for the exhibitors. But I think on a personal, there's two shows. One in Bangalore in India. I mean, I love Asia. I love judging in Asia. And Bangalore, I mean, the hospitality, what they did, and the president and his wife went to all these places for dinner to try them out before we went there. And it was just perfect. I was like blown away. And interesting with all the dogs. And we arrived and we got the Indian Maharaja hat and all these things. This was a memory. And the other show was the Siklam show in Bogota in Colombia. And I mean, the organization there was incredible, great dogs. And the hospitality. I mean, it's these things, I don't need the best hotel. I like good food. I don't need lots to drink because I don't drink much, but I like friendly people that are willing to show you around and to help you to enjoy your time and go back with good memories. I mean, this is the most important. This is why these two shows. But then,
Yeah.
judging in most countries, my blacklist is very short. But I think maybe I'm easygoing. If something's not going well or the food's not good, there's no point complaining. I said I would go there. I don't need to go again. So just make the best of it.
Yeah, that's true. You are. I can say you are very easygoing, and I think this is the one of the things that people like about you, because you are not complaining about the things. And I mean, actually, once when you come to one place, you need to go with what you have. You cannot change the things. So it is how it is. The most exciting best in show lineup you ever judged?
I've never had one where I thought all 10 dogs were that perfect. So, I mean, it's quite difficult. I mean, I loved a lot of the dogs I had in Helsinki 2015 and in Stockholm with different winners. But I mean, it's a difficult question. I don't have it in my mind. One show was better than anything else.
Yeah. Okay. One Lhasa, which you will always remember, not bred or owned by you, that has always been, let's say, the perfect Lhasa for you.
I'm going to give you two. The first one is Saxon Springs Fresno. So I'm very proud that I gave her her very first CC at Crufts in 1981. And she is still one of the most beautiful, correct Lhasas. I think her name comes up again and again and again. And I mean, she wasn't exaggerated. She was just beautifully correct. And she, especially when Jeff Horish had her, she showed fantastic. And the other one, who was also a Best in Show winner in the UK, was a bit before her, champion, oh God, his name, come across Stearns, here Andrew shouting at me. Stern Rock, I'll come back to his name. I've got on the picture, I forgot.
But, I mean, doesn't matter. When you remember it, you let me know.
Yeah, he was a perfect dog, but he wasn't a greatest show dog. Because he beat me at Crufts one year, but in the Best in Show, he got the tail down. I mean, this was the Lhasas at that time. They could drop their tail, or then they would carry on. But I think he was a brilliant dog.
Yeah, Lhasas are very stubborn, and I mean, they do the things like how they want, not how you want. This is very typical.
They should be. They're not machines. And I think this is their charm, that they can go around and suddenly stand and stop, and you say, okay, now I go again.
Yeah, that's true. Tell me, the best dog you ever bred?
It has to be the Tibetan Terrier, Tintaven Desdemona, who was a double granddaughter of Cavaradossi, who was the first Best in Show winner. I mean, she was, I judge all TTs by her.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay, Andrew Brace is writing Cheska Alexander of Stemrock.
Rock. Thank you, Andrew.
Okay, that's the one. Well, I was sure that Andrew will remember the name. Yes. Tell me the favorite win with your own dogs.
It's strange because I don't really remember winning Best in Shows in the UK at the Birmingham City and Birmingham National 74. I mean, it happened, and I know it happened, but I don't have the feelings of it anymore. I think it was just like too big a thing for me to take in at that time. Wow, I won this. So I don't really have the memories, but I think definitely Best in Show at Stockholm 1979 under Maxwell Riddle with Desdemona. Thinking an American judge, they've only just been recognized. He won't like her. He went crazy for her.
Okay. 1979, you say?
Yeah.
Okay, that's when I was born. Okay. One dog person which is not alive anymore and you terribly miss.
Three, and they're three last Apso people. One is Frankie Sefton of the Cheskers, who went to Australia, who left her last male, who was going to Australia, and that was my first champion, which she gave me. And then Thelma Morgan, who was one of the great breeders, but often the dogs were not in her kennel name. And my first champion bitch was from her breeding, and she knew all about genetics 50 years ago. She was an amazing lady. And the other was Anne Matthews, who was like my mentor, who I worked for. And I think I would have these three at the table, talking about the dogs of today.
Yeah, sometimes it's nice to think about people who are not alive anymore, that, you know, sometimes you get this thing like, oh, if they were alive, I would like to ask them something. It happens many times. Tell me one breeder of any breed who always surprise you by the quality of his dogs year after year, if you can say one from Sweden and one from the rest of the world.
Well, I've thought of this again, and it's much easier because I know, living in Sweden so long, I know all the breeders much longer, and I see how they produced again and again and again. And so I'm saying it's two flat-coated retriever breeders, the Almanza, which everybody knows, but we also have the Kakis, who are world famous for their flat coats and their American cockers, and they win many times best breeder. And I think it's great to have two top quality breeders who are not necessarily friends, but it keeps them on their toes, and they keep breeding great dogs all the time. And both have done so much for the breed outside Sweden.
Yeah, I think we will all agree that having a good competition in the breed is always very good and very healthy for you, because you always want to produce better, and keeps you going. I think it's a great thing. Okay, and one person.
Of course, I have to mention Don Erickson with his Scotties, who year after year. I mean, you know, and it's a difficult breed. It's not an easy breed. I mean,
Tell me about it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the quality he comes up with, and you can see the type. Yeah, I mean, this, you know, to these people, I think they're amazing. But we have many great breeders in Sweden.
Yeah. And somebody out of Sweden?
I can think of that question. I think lots of people that are really interested in their breed, maybe they're not the biggest breeder, but I think Lana with her Clumbers in Croatia, I think it's amazing. A difficult breed, and there she is doing so much for the breed. And I mean, some breeds are easy to breed. It's, you know, a normal dog, but a Clumber is a difficult breed. So I think it's people like this I think of. And there's
wonderful. Always nice when people mention somebody from Croatia. I'm always proud about that. Before we go to the next question, Yvonne Bowles is asking you, have you judged in South Africa? For sure, yes.
Yes, only twice. First was a long time ago in Cape Town, which was amazing. I mean, the food was incredible. Torben and I fell in love with the Cape area. And then 2 years ago, we judged up in Johannesburg, which were, I mean, the people were fantastic. And I mean, there were lots of shows. It was a great atmosphere, some fabulous dogs. Yeah. So, I mean, that was great memories.
Okay. Tell me
the best memory we have, we were taken out on the Friday before the judging, and we were given a bottle of white wine. It was called Fat Bastard. I've never forgotten. How can anybody call a bottle of wine Fat Bastard? Because as well, I've learned.
Yeah. These are the things that you will never forget. That's for sure. Tell me one still active judge who always impressed you with his knowledge and the style of judging. One from Sweden and one from the rest of the world.
Why only ever one?
Well, anyhow, I ask one and then you say three. So what does it
Of
change?
course. First, there's a couple that aren't with us anymore. And I mean, and that's people I really loved and respected. That's Terry Thorne, Pamela Crosstern, and Hans Leckman. I mean, their names come up again and again. I mean, they were fabulous people, and they learned. It taught me a lot, and I mean, they were willing to teach as well. This is so important.
Yes.
Of today, I've actually written down, and it's one is Frank Kane, and one is Anne Ingram, and another Michael Leonard, and the other one is Barbara Miller, because they're all humble. They're never like, I'm the biggest, I'm the best. They're always serious, and they can say they make little mistakes. I think these are they're wonderful people, and I think they're wonderful judges. Nobody's perfect all the time, but these four always impress me.
Okay, I have asked for one. You have mentioned four, but you didn't mention anybody from Sweden. So now you need to say someone from Sweden.
Two that have probably the greatest knowledge of dogs is Don Eriksson and Moa Persson. I mean, their knowledge is just amazing. And they're also great teachers. They're not the easiest of people. Some people don't understand them. Don, in Sweden, they don't understand Don. I said, because you have an English mentality. Your jokes are for the English, not for the Swedish.
Yeah.
I remember telling you this in the car when we were coming back from a show. And Don thought, yeah, maybe. And Moa's the same. She's more UK than she is Swedish.
Yeah. So that's perfect for you. Because you can adjust for both. Yeah. Tell me, when you go to judge, what is the favorite breed for you to judge, and what you find the most difficult breed to judge?
I always said I love judging breeds like the poodles, the Afghans, and the American cockers, because they were great show dogs. They made a show. They gave you a wow. But I mean, I don't think not anymore. I think I've changed, or maybe I've grown a bit. And I think my favorite breeds are Kerry Blue and Soft-Coated Wheaten Terrier.
Okay.
It's not the most glamorous, but I mean, I
think breeds can be very glamorous, yes.
Yeah, you won a Best in Show under me with a Swedish dog.
Yeah, many years ago.
Yes.
And the most difficult breed to judge? I remember you gave me the answer to that question many years ago, but I don't know if that has changed or not. At that time, you said it was the Fox Terriers.
I think I'm learning about them. I still panic because I read the breed standards about the fronts, and I look at these very straight fronts and tripping movements. I think, well, the standard doesn't say that, but this is what's winning. So I find them a little bit difficult. I have to really think. But it's getting easier, those breeds. I think a lot of the Mastiff breeds are rather difficult because there's so much on type. Like, you cannot just judge Neapolitans or the Dog de Bordeaux just on movement. There's so much sport type details, which are very important.
Yeah. Okay, and the last short question is one dog that you have judged and you will never forget. You are reading.
Yeah, because I tell you what, because I wrote down 3 dogs. Now I have to.
Okay.
I wrote these scribbles. What I wrote for Andrew was different because I have a dog I realized was one of my all-time favorites. This is the Thai Ridgeback in Thailand, who was, I think it was 2010, 11, and 12. He was top Thai Ridgeback and all breeds top dog. I think 2009, 2010. I mean, he was an incredible, incredible dog for type, soundness, and temperament. I have a whole photo album on Facebook of me playing with him when he was an older dog, because he remembered me. And I saw him later to show. And I just took his lead and I said, come on, Siam. And that dog remembered me. This is something special with these Thai dogs, their memory. If they like somebody, they never forget them. And there's 2 Swedish dogs. One was an Afghan many years ago, Alkirius Hustafar. I mean, he was, whether I would like him so much now, but he stays in my mind as a incredible show dog. And a German Shepherd, Triumph Blaze, who was best in show at Stockholm twice, and he was a working police dog. I mean, that was an incredible dog. But I think the first dog I really thought about was the Chow Chow from King Solomon. And this is going back to the early 70s.
Okay.
The UK Chow Chow, because his grooming was perfect, the movement on a loose lead, it was like, wow, a Chow can do this.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
it stay still in my mind.
Okay, you have survived the difficult questions. Now
They
you
were
can.
that I was thinking a little bit before, but I can't remember.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. Now a few more questions, which are, let's say, a little bit about the actual topics of today. First, I want to ask you. I think that everybody who knows you knows that you are always extremely honest, and you always say what you think, and you always write what you think, and you never play politics. You never think if this is good or bad for you or for anything else. Do you think that's a good or a bad habit?
I think it's the correct habit to have. I'm not sure it's always good for me. I mean, I know when I judged greyhounds the first time in the UK, I did not award the dog CC. And I stood there thinking 10 minutes, this is stupid, you're killing yourself. They will crucify you. Then I was thinking, would I give this dog the CC in Sweden or Norway? And at that time I said, no, I wouldn't. So I thought, well, if I wouldn't give it to them in Sweden or Norway, why should I give it in the country of origin? Of course, that was a big thing. But I had a letter and I wrote honestly about everything. And I was passed again a later time. And the lady who didn't get the dog CC came and showed unto me and got best of breed and best opposite.
Okay. Yeah, I think honesty is one of the things that are not so popular anymore, not only in the dog world but in general. But I think people have a huge respect for the people who still have, can we say, have balls to say exactly what they think. Tell me now a little bit on a personal level. You have always been very strong fighting about human rights of all kind, people of different sexual orientation or religion or whatever. Do you think that that is improving, or you think that we are going back in that subject?
It's a little bit, if we talk about the LGBT rights, it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Some countries it's going forward. In Poland, it's going back drastically. In the USA, it's going back. I mean, it's easy. I never had problems living in the UK or absolutely not in Sweden. So, I mean, I think once my parents found out I was gay and they still love me, I thought, I don't give a F what anybody else thinks. My parents love me. So that made me very strong. But I think it's important.
I know that,
Many... it's not just dogs for me. It's all about humanity and so much else in this world.
Yeah. I know that many people when they talk to you, and I have been many times in the company with you on different occasions. People always say to you, Paul, we respect you so much because since the day one you have always been open about it, and you have always fight for the rights, and you have always say the things super clear. I will never forget. You remember when we were in Mostar and the show, and you were sitting next to the priest who was the president of the kennel club, and he said, "Are you married?" And you said, "Yes, to a man." And I was thinking, the guy is going to die there in the middle of the. And I say, "You really had to answer that." Yes, I had to answer that. But anyhow, yes, I think that's what people. Maria Luisa Doppelreiter is saying to me that this was a very sexistic comment because women can also be honest, but we don't have balls. Yeah, well, I was not thinking about actual balls. It was more about balls in general. Okay, now I need to ask you another thing, because we went to talk about this honesty and the things that have, and the places and the things that can bring you because of your honesty. You have always been a great supporter of the Tibetan breeds.
Mm.
You have always been a great supporter of Tibet.
Yeah.
But then you have also gone many times to judge in China. You have also judged the World Dog Show in China. How do you find the compromise between these two things?
It was very, very difficult because I went on many demonstrations for Tibet. I had secret meetings with Tibetans who are, I mean, they're watched in Sweden, like in every country. They are watched, they're listened, everything. So we had a secret meeting. And because we wanted a Tibetan person to open the show when we had our Tibetan Breed show in conjunction with the World Show in Stockholm. And then I had an invitation to judge in China. And my first thought was, I don't want to go. I cannot go. And I thought, how can I have an opinion if I do not go? So I went the first time and I was amazed with the people. I didn't think they laughed. They were the fun we had. I mean, they're laughing, they're helpful. I mean, they're just wonderful people. And the dog people are so serious. In the first show I judged, they told me all the handlers have to wear a jacket, the men. I thought, wow, that's good. Not just the professional handlers, all handlers. They wanted it to look good from the beginning. And I've judged many, many times. And I've judged the Tibetan, they don't get many Tibetan masters at the shows, but I've done, they brought over 40 dogs. After I finished judging 2 dogs, they had over 40 to judge them, write a critique, and then pick out the best 5. So the club knew what to look for, what was the correct type. So, I mean, I felt very honored. And when we had the World seminar in Germany, we invited the Kennel Club of China, and the vice president and the chairman came over. I thought they will go crazy with Tibetan flags everywhere and prayer flags, but they were so interested. They filmed, they watched everything. I did a hands-on, Corbin judged the club show. They were so interested. I think this is where I started thinking I can do more good working with them than working against them, because all these protests do nothing. I hate eating dog meat. And not so much, I don't understand people eat dog meat. I would never eat dog meat. I don't eat horse meat. But it's the way, the cruelty of killing them. This I find, despicable. But I mean, you cannot change it by writing all these letters. Or the hate mails I got was unbelievable. I could not believe.
This is what I want. This is what I wanted to ask you, because I think that of course I can say this because we are close friends for so many years. I think people can say about you whatever they want, and I can always say yes, it's true, or it's not true. I don't give a word. Paul is this, Paul is that. I don't mind. I know who you are and what you are. But there is one thing about you that I know like 100%. I don't think that there are many people in the dog world who love dogs as much as you do. And then this story about you accepting the invitation to go to judge at the World Dog Show in China. And I mean, even I was a part of it, because you wrote the status in a way that it looked like I have invited you there, and because I'm going there and I'm going to win under you, or I don't know what. I mean, there has been this whole situation has been a science fiction for me, I must say. But I want you to say to me now, looking back at these numbers of people and hate emails and hate messages towards you because of this. I mean, how do you think about it now, let's say a few years after?
I saved all the messages, so I have them saved. The vast majority were not friends with me. My Facebook is completely open, so everyone could write. The two that are the most biggest activists did not write anything, but they got all their cronies to write something. I mean, it was despicable. I mean, the better masked people said, you will not get any dog. No one will enter under you at Birmingham this year, which unfortunately was cancelled, the Tibetan Mastiffs. But I mean, I think I'm doing more good there. Twice I've given lectures to the new judges on Tibetan Mastiffs. I mean, I can do much more good by helping. And I was a little afraid the Swedish Kennel Club would ban the judges from judging there. But they came out very, I think, sensibly and cleverly saying, we're going there to help. It's like as a teacher, do anything we can to help. So I've had lectures on all the Tibetan breeds, whippets, different breeds, and discussions with them, and they want to learn, and they hate all this dog eating.
Yeah, and now when you look back at the World Dog Show in China and you have been a part of it, do you think that has been a good decision? First of all, from the FCI to give them the World Dog Show, and second, did you ever regret for accepting the invitation to judge there?
I never ever regret judging there. It was, I mean, there were so many top judges from all around the world. It wasn't just like I was, because they were trying to say I would be the only known judge, all the rest would be C judges. It just was not true. And I think we all talk the same. It's better to help the China Kennel Union than to just let them do what they want and hate us all. It's so easy for the Chinese to hate us, the Russians to hate us, the Americans to hate us. It's much better to try to work with these clubs, and they're doing a great job. So I'm proud that I didn't give in to all the hate. I think that may be quite strong. That fuck these people, and they're sitting there on their little iPads and computers writing this. They don't know about the real world.
Yeah.
And they forget how big China is. I don't even know where Yulin is in China.
Yeah. Well, this is, I think, one thing that we all need to learn, that education and support can always, I think, bring better results than boycotting and especially a hate speech. I'm not going even to go into it. Just when we are on the story about China and your involvement with the Tibetan breeds, but especially with the Tibetan Mastiffs, I think many people will be interested about that. I mean, we see all the time on especially on Facebook, these photos of these exaggerated Tibetan Mastiff, which are being sold for incredible prices and so on and so. Is that the type that the FCI or the China Kennel Union is promoting, or Tibetan Mastiff actually could look or should look completely different than that? Or in a way, let me rephrase the question: what is the real good type of the Tibetan Mastiff when you look at it?
It's quite an easy question, because Asian people are very, very clever for getting the idea to make money. And this started with these, we call them, the Chinese don't even call them Tibetan Mastiffs. Sometimes, unfortunately, these wrong type get registered, but they try very hard not to. And I mean, 40 years ago, they started breeding, mixing these breeds, St. Bernard, bloodhounds. They wanted more skin, and then chow chows to get the red color. So I mean, the CKU call them, the Chinese crossbreed mastiffs, but they don't even recognize as a breed. And there were many, many in Europe and USA who wanted the FCI to make two breeds, and China said never ever. The others are just bastards. They are not a pure breed. So I mean.
And looking at the Tibetan Mastiffs, what is actually a correct type? How they should look like? What are the main characteristics of the breed?
I think an awful lot it's a bit like many of these dogs. It's just the standing. They give you something. It's not like this puppy show dog jumping and everything. They really have this. I know, it's fantastic. You look at them and you have to feel sort of humble that you're allowed to look at them. And I think this is something special. It's not an easy dog as a show dog. There are some now very good ones that do show really well. But in many, many years in Sweden, they would put the brakes on and say, I'm not going to move, or drop the tail. They just did not like it. But then I think now, especially in Russia, I judged them in March, which was my last show before the shutdown. And I mean, they were fantastic. I mean, I didn't have one that I would say was Chinese type. I also gave a lecture on the breed there. And they said all these Chinese type were in Eastern Russia, not in St. Petersburg.
And what is at the moment the biggest problem in the breed? Are there still too many dogs which are exaggerated in coat, in heads and these things? Or you think that the breed is now in a good shape? The breed is in the good shape?
I think the breed has improved a lot. The problem is some of these Chinese lines, not the most extreme, will get mixed in because they have come to some parts of Russia, to Estonia, so they get mixed in. I was told my best to breed at the European show in Kiev was, I think, 1/4 Chinese. And I think my best to breed and group winner in Shanghai also was about the same. But I mean, they still had the type.
Yeah. Okay. Tell me now another thing. Sweden was one of the first countries that implemented these instructions for the judges when judging these, let's say, exaggerated breeds like brachycephalic breeds and so on. Do you think that was the good way? Do you think that was the good direction to go, or you think the direction from the Netherlands, where the government gives us the instructions how to improve the breeds and change the breeds, is the better way, or what is your opinion on this?
I have very strong opinions on it. What's happened in Holland is appalling, absolutely appalling. But I think the way the Kennel Club did it, with vets checking the best of breeds at birth and not allowing dogs to go in the group, was also completely wrong. But Sweden started many years ago. We were a group of all-breed judges who met at the airport, and we went through every single breed that was in Finland or Sweden or Norway. And we said, can we think of any problems, health problems or movement or anything? And I think we had 46 breeds. Then they were sent to the Kennel Club. They sent out a list to well, not a list, but asking for all the breed clubs, do you agree with this? Do you have any other ideas? It came back 73 or 74 breed clubs said, we want to be in on this. So this is what the great thing, the Swedish Kennel Club, we worked from the beginning with the breed clubs. I think this was the best way to go.
And I mean, like this, you have managed to improve the health and the type in these breeds, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one instance, we had a lot of skin problems on the English Bulldog. And when we were made aware of it, we were looking for it, and then we don't see it anymore. Yeah. But the problem with all these brachy breeds, and even when they're called the Shih Tzu, which I don't really consider a typical brachy breed, the vets see the worst specimens. What we see in the ring are basically good, sound dogs. But if they're not, we throw them out. But the ones that the vets see, this is the problem. And I think it's a lot to be first with these animal activists and this PETA, and a lot of these newer vets, they have this is an unsound breed, but they're not the majority. These are bred by puppy farmers or imported.
Yeah. And how do you think that this story in Netherlands is going to end? I mean, is there a way back? Is there something that can be done?
It's going to be very hard to get the government to change regulations. I mean, it should have been much more work done before. This is the big problem. I don't quite know. I mean, we're lucky with the chairman of the Swedish Kennel Club is one of the top vets, and he's well known, and he's a great ambassador for the Kennel Club. But this is we're lucky. So he stands in quite high esteem with the other vets. But I don't know what happened. I knew it was these things were talking, but then suddenly this happened, and so many breeds. I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, let's see.
I think it's not just ridiculous; it's sad and heartbreaking for the breeders.
Yeah, this is the thing that, like, I always say one thing, and I actually, in a way, I don't care how people think of what people think about it, because I'm the same like you. I like to say what I think, because I think it's one of my rights in my life. Yeah. You know, I don't do anything to anybody, and I am allowed to say whatever I think. Let's put on the side the politics and everything. I think it's so sad for the breeders, for the people who have invested years and years of passion and money and work to come to the point that they cannot breed anymore. This is the saddest part, and this is the part where we should all in a way try to support them and help them to find the solution, even if I don't know what the solution is.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what the solution, but it's heartbreaking. I mean, and when you think of the French Bulldogs, I mean, the best breeders came from there. I mean, brilliant breeders. I mean, world famous. I mean, it's not just these little pet dogs. I don't know, but Holland has lots of strange ideas about the dogs now, and I mean, they have some fanatics. One of the worst ones. I'm not going to say her name, but I mean, very clever at writing. But I mean, it's just tragic, and I think we all have to be aware, and we have to work hard from the beginning. This is why I'm proud of what the Swedish Kennel Club has done. We're on a good footing. If the government starts sending people, we can show all this work we've been doing for so many years.
Yeah, that's so important. Okay, we have only 2 more questions left, Paul, and it's amazing. I mean, we have been speaking 1 hour and 45 minutes, and to me, the time is passing with you like it has been 3 minutes. But Andrew Brace is saying, I think in the dog world we have many women who have bigger balls than some of the men. I suppose that's true. Desi Murphy is saying, I had a great time with Paul in Shanghai. Brina Tomer is saying Dutch and other clubs should look at the Swedish Kennel Club and the great work done in Sweden. The Andrew Brace again is saying the Swedish Kennel Club was indeed fortunate that their breed clubs were keen to acknowledge that there were problems and happy to work with them. This was a hugely positive move, which I completely agree. Tina Taulo saying Dutch Kennel Club did it secretly. Maria Luisa Doppelreiter saying the BCI leaflets in Sweden and other Scandinavian countries are superb. FCI should force all the kennel clubs to use it. Yeah, I mean, it is obvious that the Swedish Kennel Club and in general Scandinavian countries have done amazing work with this, and this is what you say, because all these things are actually just politics, unfortunately. Yeah. And when people come to complain about this, and when you show them that you have done the things for so many years, then just they cannot do anything. But okay, let's.
Ante, I must say one thing in defense of the Dutch Kennel Club. They were the first country to use the Swedish BSI and translated it into Dutch. I mean, so they were thinking about it, but something just went completely wrong, or the activists were too strong. The Kennel Club is not strong enough. But I mean, they were trying in the beginning.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But okay, as you said, something went wrong, and we don't know what went wrong. I mean, in a way, I'm really all the time saying one thing. I honestly wish the best to the Kennel Club, to the FCI, to the breeders. I just hope that they all together can find a solution to change this thing, because I think, as you said, it's heartbreaking that these breeders who have invested so much years of love for some breeds cannot continue to breed. Okay, we have only 3 more questions, and these are 3 more questions that we are going to finish this interview with. The first one is, what is one thing in your doggy life that you would still like to achieve?
There are 2 things that I'm disappointed and annoyed by the Kennel Club, that I've never been invited to judge Tibetan Terriers at Crufts. I think I think I put the breed on the map. I mean, he did so much for the breed, and the top breeders, 2 of the top breeders came with dogs by him, after seeing him. And I think I should have been invited to judge junior handling many years ago. They have so many judges judging the handlers who have never been handlers themselves. And I think you need to be, in my day, I was a good handler. I think that's something I would have liked to do.
I like when you are honest. Honestly, this is a nice part about you. What would be the best advice that you would give to somebody who wants to become successful in the dog world? Doesn't matter as a breeder or as a judge or as a handler.
Don't look at everything on Facebook. I learned everything using my own brain and listening to people, face to face, looking at their dogs and going over. First, you have to decide what breed and why you want that breed, not just because we have so many new breeds coming in, these rare breeds that are so similar to something we have, quite unnecessary now. It's better to take care of these old breeds. So many of the old British breeds are dying out. I mean, we should be working more to keep those going, not bring in these little, I won't say any names, but there's a lot of Russian breeds I'm not very keen on. They look like a big German Shepherd or a Batson Bernard or an ugly Havanese. I mean, we don't need all these little dogs. I think it's important that every country has at least one breed of their own. So one of my dreams is the Indian Kennel Club gets one breed, at least one breed recognized. That I would love to see. There's such an old kennel club.
Yeah, but what would be
politics there?
What would be one advice that you would give to a young person who is starting in dogs, like to have as a advice to remember for the rest of his life if he wants to become a successful in dogs, except not to read everything on Facebook?
Don't run before you can walk. There's no fast way. I think this is the most important. Read the books, listen to people, look at dogs. I mean, this is the best way. Just looking at pictures that have been fixed and all these things. I mean, it's interesting, but I mean, it's not the real way to learn. Yeah. I think. I mean, Torben, when we showed the Lasses or the TTs, the entries were over in 1 hour, and then we would walk. People would go home. We went around looking at the other breeds, and I mean. Like in England, I learned my grooming by looking at the standard poodle people and the Afghan people. I thought, where am I going to learn? I look at these breeds there. Vicky Marshall, who always had her orange knickers on and her orange hair. I mean, she made a show and you saw her coming in the ring. So it gave me a little bit, okay, you have to get noticed. Not to be, I don't want to wear orange knickers, but things like this. And then.
Are you sure you don't want?
No. I don't like it. I had an orange shirt on, but I changed it. I went green. I think you have to come in and not so many of the young Russian girls they looked like they were out going to a disco with the short skirts, and I mean it was like they're showing themselves. I mean this is thankfully gone. I think now they dress much better and they show the dogs more normally because it was just so overdone. And they're all calling themselves professional handlers. This is something that really annoys me. I have a lot of friends on Facebook that are professional handlers and what I call real professional handlers. That's their living, and they're great people and they're great dog people. But I get so many young people want to be friends and work a professional handler. I just delete. I have no time for that. If I'm going to be friends with someone, they have to give me something. I just don't want 5,000. It's I'm trying to keep the numbers down.
Well, Tina Taulos wrote one comment which I think goes quite well to what you said, and she says, "Eyes and ears open, mouth shut."
Yeah,
I think that's a very good advice. Yeah.
Until you know what you're doing, then you can open your mouth.
Yeah, that's true. I think people in general are opening mouth too much without knowing why they are doing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. My last question for you is, Paul, how do you see the future of the sport? What do you think is going to happen in the next, let's say, 10 years? Do you think there is something that we need to be especially careful with? And what are your thoughts on happenings in the dog world in the next 10 years?
It's really a difficult question, but it's quite easy. I mean, first we have to be so aware of these activists. And this is what we're facing now. This is our biggest problem. And it's okay, certain countries don't have that problem and never will have that problem. But it will come. And once it starts, the snowball going against more and more countries, I think that's our biggest problem. And I'm not going to say go back to basics, but because when we talk about extreme dogs, it's like it's happened in just one generation. There's all these bulldogs, pugs, Peking. It's happened over 20 generations, 100 years. They have slowly developed. And like for a government to say we ban these breeds, it's just criminal. They should say at least you have 10 years to slow down and go back a little. I mean, this would be a normal way, a democratic way. So, I hope the sport's still going on because it is a wonderful sport. And even though you often remember the nasty people I mean, there are so many great people. So I think it would be a shame to see the sport go down. But I mean, I think I would like to see the AKC, all the kennel clubs come together. I think if we had one breed standard for all of them, this is a dream world, it would be so much easier and cause less fraction and problem. But I think if we all work hard and we have to work together, forget all the fighting in the breed clubs, because it happens in every country. There are problems. We don't, in Sweden, we're lucky, we don't have problems in the kennel club, but we have problems in the breed club. But in countries with smaller numbers, everybody knows everybody in the kennel club. And it's much different. Our president is not a breeder or a judge. But in most of the countries, it's a famous all breeds judge. So I think we have to understand everyone. And I mean, Sweden has done some really stupid things. Their thoughts were correct. They were thinking what should be the perfect way, but they did it all the wrong way. Like when they stopped lots of judges from lots of countries. I mean, how can you not ban, but how can you demand judges, say, from the Philippines with Dinky, or Romania with Petru and Christian, and say you have to fill in this formula? They just weren't thinking straight. And I mean, but they have changed, thank God. And it's things like this. The latest thing was only Nordic judges were going to judge our 5 brachy breeds that we recognize as the big problem breeds. I mean, that was also, I think, there's Scandinavian judges that are terrible on these breeds. You can't stop someone like Stefan coming or Rivas. So, I mean, that's been taken away. I mean, the ideas go a bit crazy before it's really thought about. I think they should go out a bit more and think before they make these things. I'm sure I'm not getting invitations to certain countries because I'm a member of the Swedish Kennel Club. This I'm positive of. There are a lot of hard feelings.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that one of the important things is that we all do mistakes, but I think it's good when people say, okay, we have make this rule or we have make that, and that was not a good thing, and then they have this so many times mentioned balls to say, okay, this was not good and we are going to change it. Anyhow, we have been, Paul, almost 2 hours. Let me see one of the last comments. Kati Makela saying, I'm happy to be in this sport for its best years, getting older now and not looking forward what is happening to this hobby we all love. Thank you all for interesting talk. There have been 100 comments to the interview, and many people were watching, and you will be able to read all this later. 2 hours have passed very quick for me. As you can see, we have started with the full sun behind me, and now it's complete dark behind. But as always, Paul, talking to you is always a real inspiration, and not because we are friends and because we know each other for so long. I must say you are one of the persons, first of all, which I really respect, not only for your knowledge about the dogs, but because you are really an amazing human being. And I just hope that that many people, that new generations will be able to produce people like you and Torbjörn and many others, which I respect so much in the sport. And in a way, you know that you and me, we have fight so many times about different things. But I think the amazing thing is that you have, even if I'm younger than you, always been open to talk to me, and we have always both learned something out of this. And this is what I love about you, that you are so normal. Let's say, even if you are far away from normal, the same like me.
I think humble is, you listen to other people's opinion. You don't have to agree, but you should always listen.
Yeah. Anyhow, it was really amazing, and there are now, of course, many people writing. Thank you so much for a brilliant interview, great interview. Thanks for a great talk, and many others. You will be able to see that later. I really appreciate for your time. I'm so happy that we made this talk, and I really really hope that soon this crazy thing is going to finish, and I hope we are going to meet soon. I miss you all, guys, from Sweden, and I wish you all the best, and talk to you soon.
I wish you all the best for the Split Show, one of my favorite shows.
Thanks a lot. Okay, good night, everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you for all your kind comments, and see you next Wednesday again at 8 p.m. Croatian time. Bye-bye. Good night.
Bye-bye.